Hello, I get now Eden. So, ich hoffe, es arbeitet. Something, there's a lot of noise there. Try to make it quieter. Try mal second. So the Ebbach is Pashas Toldos, and it's spät. And ich tracht das sei, so, ich habe ein bisschen die Pasha, and ich kann sagen, ich sehe etwas, what's going on here, what's speaking to me. It sounds very interesting, the Pasha, but a lot of drama and machloikes and intrigue. But what does it connect to us, and how does it connect to the Gange von Shtikl Malach in the last four Pashas? So I was struck by this thought, and zwischen sage ich mit der Name von der Parsha auch etwas like the Toldos, or Ovis Toldos, Ovis Mechaldik, Toldos Mechaldik, Yovis. There's something going through the whole Parsha. Una jede story from the Parsha coming coiled on in the Zach, which is the pain, the choshech, the pain, the a lot of I don't know how to call it, a lot of drama, a lot of pain, a lot of darkness that happens when people are children, and when Ovis Kartaranti told us. Another better was first, I couldn't love it the Shlosh, Avramini was the first one, I think I put Avini something, Avini Orishan, as it was like the first, as the Tata of another mention, Aliyidin, Avaman Goyim Nesatichu, the master that Avram Avini is the einzigste von those, that geriefen der Teure Shem Office, Kiav, Shimcha Avram, Kiav Goyim Nesatichu. And he was the father, like the original father. It's a little like Udam Marish, how he like pretended to be Udam Marish, so we see Kappa, and Lechlechu, which in Dingen is Taka Lechlechu, gives shit, but then let's talk that there's something going back to that. But Lamasa in the story, at least, Avram Avini is considered the first Echte Avram, Avichu Rish, and Sakadu Avichu Rish, and Chutz pound. But it comes like somehow like going back being. And now Yitzchok is the second, and Malchin Yitzchok Yaakov, it's in double, and the second Magaitzi, they Madraiga, they Oilam, Masayas Bunim, these children, and there's the second generation. There's a lot of trauma, a lot of problem inherent in that, not in the act was told this. And the erste Sache von der Parsha is, Rivka, there's a problem, she got to Kent Yitzchok, and so that's when Yitzchok, but I'm going to go back to how like them either told the Yitzchok from Avram held the Yitzchok. Another Werte, the problem is the problem told this really starts when Avram held the Yitzchok, but it's kind of hidden there. It's kind of left unsaid, and by that alliance of the Akaida, which we always speak of in the line of Avram Avini. But the reality is there's something really major going on between this Avram and Yitzchok, between this Av and Ben. The Kachte Binchos, the Chitchas Rahavtu Adasham. Say something in this relationship, in this step, in this connection where Avram is holding the Yitzchak, but Sikim was a Paul mehr klum in sein, and mehr shine, mehr ogeret statement hold the Yitzchak Avram and Yitzchak eigene Kinder. That's how that shows the stereotype, this archetype, the stereotype of children born, and how hard it is. And there's a reason for that. And the Chazal muss ich gemacht mit Sabla gesprochen. Ladike, Wete, Yitzchak, Lashem, Rishtok, Yakuri. But the idea behind this is that when that really, Haluda is a really hard thing. It's nicht bederich hateva. So wie die Gemüse sagt, Neftaich Shalchaya, Biadak Deshbachim. This is getting as a Sachmensch, nicht Ovises, and nicht Takures, and they're doing okay, they're having children. It's good they're not really having children, in other words, they're not really fathers. Then it's an Irainikel, and the Irainikel is Lubna, Irainikel, okay, that works, but in the original archetype of father and son, and Ovis and Toldos, it's a real, Stafman Mamsa Vat Simsim, Kipshite, the Levi the Eshte Simsim, Sekenen Moliza and Toldos, and they were all Akuris because they were moist, because they were fathers. So a father, a father is not just a relationship with the child. The father manich this firstness, this originality, this huge Starkheit, die gewaltige Sache, was heißt Ovis, it doesn't lend itself to putting itself off and giving itself over to the next generation, to creating a generation in the metaphorical, the metaphysical sense, something that's not him, and it's wir kennen eine ganz andere Welt, eine ganz andere how do you say, a ganz andere like existence. It's like the way we tell this story. I remember he had his whatever, his conversion or whatever he did, and Yitzchok, what does he do? And the second generation, always in everything, second generation, are left in a certain problem. They can't redo. I can't say noch einmal Avram Avinu, and I can't. And auch nicht dass Society in eine Klasse, so push and water the golden kites and told pure. There's something in between in that step of Avram heard this Yitzchok, and the same thing Yitzchok. Was over here, look, Yitzchok having his own kids, which is very hard, and therefore, it's Kiakuru, like Rochel was Akura, like Ref was Akura, like Sur was Akura. Anyone who is really a father, not even can look in the Mushn and Avet Hashem, and the Nimshlof and creativity. Anyone that's really creative, a lot of people think there's people that are creative, they're moiled all the time, and there's people that are not, and there's some like kind of problem, like Akura, like being barren sometimes. Someone has called writer's block from the katness or something that doesn't let him be moiled his power, doesn't let him give moitziela poils on the mashpiyas on the toilets or the whatever. The emes is this is then everyone is tam and mam shachasai looked at the toilets on tate from the elder side. There's nothing going on. But anyone that has a really new thought, there has to be a akura in this stage. And on the way, jeder einer hat eine echte neue Idee. Geht seine Akure, Vater kann es möglich sein, Vater kann es bringen, sie Avram held Yitzchok and Yitzchok, Esav and Yaakov. Vater is a mizan, because it's like inherent in the fact that it's new. If it's too easy to be murdered, then you're not really a father. You didn't really start anything. And this gives us this picture of this archetype, and it's like real trauma. And the erste Sache von dem Hype in the Pusik. Yitzchak and Yisroel matching a bait, and Tefillah is this koich like Yitzchak. If you read the Pusik, Vayeut Hashem, andere Werte hat sich gebeten. However, et means exactly in Chazal they were on the solution. It's interesting. Such as Vayispal, Omen Trachten and Vayispal Hashem, Vashem is Spal, als sich gedaven zu ihm. And that gedacht machen he created some kind of religion, some kind of kli, some kind of conduit between him and God, and then God Vayeut Lowy, exactly in Yana Weg, exactly in Yana Kli, in Yana Zachset. Chadash is Kimen Vatarif, but that doesn't help. It's still the second verse is I have to go and Rivka was such pregnancy, depression, whatever, and he looked at Kailam was annoyed. Basically, she doesn't know why she's alive, and like a very deep pain, a very deep trauma, and that's because you're pushing yourself out of this Rivka, and Rivka was kind of like for Yitzchok at least. Basically, Surah died. The first generation died off, and they were still living. The Rivka was for Yitzchok this dream of his mother's house, of his Sunachdoom, and this Vayisaritza when it knocked her off from that dream. It knocked her. Rivka was this gelebt in a fantasy world from unenkusher alle oil, chal v'ruchem atzibis. It was like gewaldig, as we had noch mit chakachim. And now she became pregnant, and she saw herself in this conflict where she's getting children, and the nimshal, as the Pusik gesagt, in other words, because the kind is haben their eigene Begierde, haben their eigene Neshama, their eigene personality, their eigene existence, their eigene world, and it's not going to be Veinochem Yitzchak now anymore. It's not and some Kinder kennen sich the man the Seite das geht riefen the Kinder noch man nicht geriefen, and Avram Avinu, especially this is where he totally dies, like Rashi says that he died later isolated type of truth. So there's something not the Nimshlof in that, nicht not the Muslim. There's something like cutting himself off totally from Avram Avinu, cutting himself totally off from the first daughter of us, from the first generation. And now there's room for everyone. There's room, and there's this power to everyone, given to everyone. Esav can go and see his way, and Yaakov goes to his own way, and Yitzchok type. So Avram Avinu can't see that, because in other words, Avram Avinu, his mehis can't see it, because his mehis is being mechadish this whole world where there's like only one thing. He can only see one thing. He doesn't even see Yitzchok, and Nakadas Yitzchok in some sense means that he doesn't even see Yitzchok as existing as a separate entity. And only when there's Altishla Chat Cholanan, and suddenly we don't really hear Avram Avinu. The next time Avram Avinu is doing something, he's dying. Not exactly. He made Yitzchok, but also I was last week. He was kind of not doing anything anymore. As a Gabba, the Gabum Shanal's Gatin. And then I'm gesagt, but the idea is here he's dead, totally dead, and now this new generation they have a really hard time to establish themselves and in relation to the previous one and in their own existence, and it's hard for their parents and it's hard for them. And ich meine, ob man will sich and dieselbe Sachen bis the end from the parsha, she's never got over this. Katzi b'chaim f'nai b'noi schais im lekayach Yitzchok im b'noi schai lama lichaim. It's really shad for Pusik, and she's saying that her whole life, which is kind of being stuck between being Rivka, Yitzchok's Surah replacement, between being Rivka, which has her own agendas with Yaakov and Isaac, and she's the whole time afraid, and she's like, look, I gave birth to these two children, and in the end she tells Yaakov to run away. Lama eshkol gam shnaichem yem echad. She's saying, okay, I went through this whole thing much in Geländ, and all of that, and now you're going to fight, and I'm going to lose because you're going to fight with each other, and he's going to kill you, you're going to kill him. She's the whole time like in this real trauma, that which is when you have children, when you have, as we look at the original idea of children, the original level of children, there's dangers, like they could both kill each other, both from their own choice, from their own fights, or from their own decision. And the whole story, if you read the major story, the major drama in the parsha, basically starts with this Pusik, and there's always basically this is the Pusik, which steht the Choshech is the Choshech from the Midas Agvira, which was in the first symptom. And that's what Chana of Maros of Yitzchok. In other words, Yitzchok is the father here, and as he gets older, he loses his sight, he loses his clarity. He doesn't really know what he's doing anymore in the world, and he knows that he has. And if you try to put yourself in this place, in this picture that this story is giving us, it's a really complex and really beautiful place. In other words, you need to put yourself in Yitzchok's place, where he doesn't have a Kenish Zayin, it's Chelad Marois, and weiß, dass zwei Kinder, which he pearled with his ganz hart gedenkt, and dann kap Yaakov und Isaac sind die zwei Kinder von Vayusale Hashem, and Vigli Anurim, and some Ugak von Avram Avinu. And now he doesn't really know. He's like, there's a blindness is like there's like a curtain between him and the world. It's like he's behind this curtain. He's Yitzchok. He has his inner world, whatever it is. We don't really know ever, because he was killed by the Al-Qaeda, and he's cut off from his father. He has his mother somehow in the Srivka, and he doesn't really see her either. And as we see in the continuation of the story, she's somehow working against him or manipulating him. And through this curtain, he experiences the world from behind this curtain, and he thinks he's going to give a bruch to Isa, which is like also a continuation of he's giving, and he doesn't really know. He can only feel, he can only hear. He gets certain indications of the outside world, certain indications of his children, but he's never really there. He never really knows Yitzchok. In other words, but this is all. Even before, there's some kind of blindness, some kind of curtain between the parents and their children. They don't really know. They have out of Isaac is best, but I get them asking Yaakov is best because she likes this studious Yosef Ulam or whatever. But both of them are not really what Yaakov and Isaac both don't care about either of these things. They're trying to please their parents. They're trying to listen. Yaakov folgt am Tat, and er geht sie Lowy, and Isaac folgt am Mama and nimmt das zweite Vav, and it's not really what she wants. But they're not really in the same place at all. And this is the trauma or the tragedy or the story of this whole parsha, where they're not. These children have their own Toldos, and Toldos is a ganz andere parsha, and their parents exist here somehow, but they're not in the same world at all. And this world is a different world, this children's world. And Müssen wir mal sagen wegen der... That's this whole parsha. What else does it talk about? The and the Bechoira and all these things. They're all related to this concept of the children, not somehow not really finding a place with their parents and going away. And Yaakov had to go away, and he goes back to Lowy. And that's basically my thought about this. So I don't know. I don't have an answer to the question. I was thinking about this week the article and Vododot, and there's this concept where we're trying to look in the past and trying to but the question of it is it starts because we're trying to put ourselves in a certain relation, a certain framing, in a certain existence between us and the past, and our parents or our parents' parents or previous generations, which are like parents to us, and some of them in the real sense like Ovis, because they created the frameworks in which we live, or they created the traditions in which we live. And they're saying the past is a foreign country. The past is always behind this curtain, and this is like the situation where we are in all the time. There's a curtain between us and the reality, and especially between us, and since a lot of our reality is what's come down to us from our parents and from Friede Gedoyres, there's always this and we never really know. We meet a tap that bissel, and there's this fear, like Yaakov has this tragedy. He's gonna kill me. Maybe they're gonna realize that we're not really correctly touching them. We're not really correctly representing what we're supposed to present regarding them. And it's the other way around. And also, Yitzchok in other words, all of what we're doing is either feeling or hearing. They said something, we try to feel the feelings that they left over, or the reality, like the texture of the text and the texture itself, like the text and texture. Text is Yaakov and texture is Esav. Text Kol Yaakov, texture Yidayim the Esav. But the texture of the life that they Chaim Shuvakluni. And we tried to figure out, so they were greater than us, so we need to be nichna to them, or they didn't be nichna to us, maybe they had a preparation to us. We don't really know. It's all in this confusion, and somehow the idea of the parsha is that there's some kind of plan or some kind of story how this all has to happen, how there needs to be this separation, this traumatic separation between Ovis and Bunim, between Avraham and Yitzchok and Yaakov and Esav, and through that's just the story of the unity of the world. There's not something wrong behind the solution. The story is this is how what happens. And every time you have children, every time in both the physical, literal, and metaphorical sense, there's a pain. There's them going out and doing whatever they want, and there's when they're still in you a little bit, you're feeling you can feel this. People kind of in the nimshal from this thought. It's actually very good. It's a very good picture when someone has a good idea, a real idea, idea, and this is be'ibber. The Rebbe Malach said that if you have a good chiddush in Torah, you shouldn't say it for 9 months because it needs time to grow the fetus and it needs to get birth. But the idea doesn't mean kipshit every dvar Torah that you have. But the idea is that thoughts, and they have a process of gestation and a process of pregnancy and a process of being born. And the Arizali told us about the fetus. They all have 12 months, 9 months, 7 months, all kinds of numbers, long times. And when the Novi, the person that has the Asogya, he has this idea, he can already know, when it's still in him, already know how there's two sides. There's Akiv and Esav, or Menachlis Ta'elemis, however you want to explain Akiv and Esav. Because he can see that when it's going to go out, when he's going to make Meshachas on the idea to the Welt, guys on Menschen was going to snitz and Sagen Menschen, guys on Menschen is going to snitz in the Teuf, and ready the Kirba feels that he feels this, and he says Lama the Anoichi, this felt close to wissen the idea, this felt close to open the Asoga, me kann es schon in, ich weiß schon in days, wie das ist du a Weg, du a Schwilz, du du a Weg was Lied von des zu kennen. Yeshurim da kas am push me kostly. Du allemal a Weg was me kann am jede Sach. Sie Eisov oder sie Jakob oder sie and they kill the person and in the end there's no choice. But I believe Hashem la avoy gaitis and it sounds like Cain, very similar to the story how Cain said good love min esoich truget, also wie truget ich kann es nicht trugen, mamisch, also ein Mensch, weil so wie die Gemüse sagt, smal allein every when someone has a pain or a truktap, so wie es ist trugedik, mamisch trugedik, also ist gerne letzt, ich sagt, man kann make sure zu trugen, was du eiris. Und ich weiß, in welchem Maß von man macht eiris, man kann eiris, ever, I don't know what I'm saying. The idea is that we're trugedik mit der Idee, and es schluckt sich in ihm. Es schluckt sich, die zwei Sachen, und es ist schwer zu trugen. Keiner gesagt, wenn man kann nicht nach Hashem gut laufen, ich kann es nicht trugen mehr. Ich kann nicht trugen, man hat. Und da habe ich gesagt, it sounds like, if you read, it's the same tniya, like we see, wenn wir Hashem la, schlag wir wird neifer, aber wir haben so. Heißt, das Ding habe ich gesagt, war kein, hallo, im Zeit, Leute, la Pesach hat das, so ich weiß, weil ich kusse, weil ich als, wir hatten Tim schon bei. Ein anderer wird es, ja, so du, ja, Kevin, so du, and each idea, every point, every chiddush, every child, literal child that you can have, could be he's going to grow up to be Hitler, could be he's going to grow up to be Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's just how it is. And Im Taitiv and Veravi Avitzor, there is an option for everything to work out the way it's supposed to work out. There is an option for it not to, and there's no Vimli Mele, this, and that's all. And then they're second, they're born, they already start mit keine Patent, mit Yaakov, mit Eisra, mit den Zidadashem, mit der Judah, Jesus Bakaev. There's so much symbolism and so much like going on, but all these things actually happen. Every time something new gets born, every time there's this cutoff where Ad Kan Ovis mit Kan Vaylich Bunim. Every time there's going to be this kind of interaction. There's going to be this kind of something that, like the Yaakov, the thing that's in the end, the thing that is somehow less important, somehow more important. He's smaller, but he's bigger, and all these studim, all these dramas, all these things, and you're never gonna know. Should I bless you? Jeder was macht eine Sache, weiß Tag nicht, und Yitzchok hat nicht gewiss. Und ein bisschen, sogar, so Pire, mit dem man darf benchen Jakob, also wie Art der Lowy, but he really didn't know. He really didn't know wenn ein Mensch hat eine Tittep, ist eine Sache, und hat Kinder, weiß nicht, soll ich benchen, soll ich lieber der Eishof-Part, soll ich lieber der Jakob-Part, was meint, und weiß nicht, and the whole world we're really blind, and Yitzchok was blind, and oh, the andere Sache, was sagen, is we see also there's an interesting pusik. There's stories of Avimelech and Rivka, which is very similar to Avram and Surah and Avimelech and Pare. The third time it happened the same thing, but basically the pusik had to get this. He looked, Vahiro av Urat Mulvad, Haru av Rishna Shraib Mai Avram. So my vart is that it's very important for the pusik. It's very important for Toldot to say, no, this is not the selbe Sache Shraib Mai Avram. In my relationship, the Yitzchok's relationship with Rivka, Yitzchok's relationship with Avimelech, whatever politics was going on, it's not the same. It's nicht Vayashav Shloim Malkis Dovis. Das verkehrt. Du ist Milvader over it. Avram Vini had his own Nisyonis and Vayiruav and Mitzrayim and Paro and Kadis Tifcher, all kind of stuff. Jetzt ist du a ganze nice Sache. It's very similar because the Chazin. And he's doing the same things, many of the same things. Vayachper Ba'ayres, when Asheloi, Vayikil Hem Shaimet, Keshaimet Ashkur Len Oviv. He has this idea of recreating his father's journey, of recreating his father's Ba'ayres, of having the wealth and the oisher of his father. Oisher is Rishtayvis, Isaac, Sitner, Choyvis. Aber, es ist auch Rishtayvis, Ruzim. Aber es ist Melvader over this, Nashayb Ma'avram. This is another whole story, and this other whole story, it's conditioned on this cutoff, on this Vaisroitz, I wouldn't make here, but this is Mkan Lamas and Noach, this is my Noach, was Ruchel Agazok. Always, in order to have children, in order to be something real should be born, someone has to die. And Chazal sagen, eine Shekras Lael, that's Mitzvanis, Chesel Mitzvanis, and it becomes like Avun, Ismael Avnaim. And Rizal said, the whole Torah, that's Naidim, and that's Mitzvan, and basically, the parents must die in order for their children to live. Always like this. And where it says, Boiv Nachdik Toiv Lavisayin, Shlemula Chatil, Luni Lebuni Loilam, Aduni Kimil Shlebuni Loilam. We need to respect our parents, and this is going back to what I was talking about, the Vatoldos, and how do we relate to. We need to respect them for living, and also for dying, and for leaving us space, for making mistakes, which leave us space to fix, and for living in this dialectic, and this parents and children, and Und das ist die ganze Sache, was die ganze Masse, was ich habe zu sagen. Und ich denke, so mag ich das schon, dass die Tat ist, und ich kenne